You know that feeling, don't you? That sense that life is just kind of happening to you, like you're stuck somehow. Or maybe no matter what you do, things keep going wrong, and it's always, well, it feels like it's always someone else's fault. It's a really common human thing. And we hear these powerful ideas like Nelson Mandela saying, I never lose, I either win or learn. Amazing, right? But honestly, for a lot of us, it feels more like we're just losing a lot. So we're here today because you asked us to really dig into this.
Yeah, and that's exactly the challenge we're looking at today. This idea of being caught in a story where you always seem to be the one who suffers. And just to be clear up front, this isn't about saying real difficulties don't happen. Of course they do. Bad things, unfair things, they're part of life. What we're exploring is more of a mental pattern,
Yeah.
an internal story that keeps us feeling trapped, even if maybe, just maybe, things outside could change. It's about what's going on inside.
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah.
And our mission for this deep dive, based on the research and insights you've been looking into, is to figure out why this happens, what's the real cost, the heavy toll it takes, and crucially, how do we break free? How do we become the authors, the writers of our own more? We've got some, frankly, surprising insights coming up, and definitely some practical tools you can use, like right away. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit more. This mental trap. What does it actually mean to be stuck in that victim narrative? Like we said, it's not about denying actual victimhood when bad things happen. That's real. But this pattern, it's about staying there mentally, believing that everything outside controls you, and you have, well, basically zero power to change anything. It's like being stuck on repeat. Think about that person. Maybe we've all known someone like this or even been there ourselves, constantly complaining about the boss, the coworkers, the system, always something. But here's the key part. Nothing changes. Year after year, they don't learn a new skill, look for a different job, maybe even just change their own approach. It's like they get attached to that role, the suffering role, even when other options might actually exist.
That's it. And what's really powerful here, something that comes through strongly in thinkers like Viktor Frankl. He survived concentration camps, unimaginable suffering. And he said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That just cuts right to the core, doesn't it? We genuinely can't control everything that happens around us. Storms come, things break, people act unexpectedly. But, and this is the crucial but, we always control how we respond. Always. It shifts the focus, you see, from what's happening to me to what can I actually do here.
That idea, choosing our response even when things are terrible, it's so powerful. But then the question is, if we always have that choice, why do so many of us feel so stuck? Why is it so hard to get out of these patterns? And this is where it gets really interesting, drawing on some of the psychological background stuff you've looked at. One huge reason, often invisible, is trauma. And we need to be careful here. Trauma isn't just the big T's stuff like war or a disaster. Those are definitely traumatic. But it can also be the quieter things, the hidden wounds. Like imagine a child who just never feels heard. Ever. Or a teenager who's constantly compared, constantly told they're not good enough. Or maybe someone who experiences neglect, not physical abuse, but that chronic lack of care or attention. These things dig deep.
They really do. Because what happens in those situations is the nervous system itself kind of learns something. It gets rewired. It learns the world isn't safe, that people aren't trustworthy. And maybe most importantly, that trying to change things, well, it doesn't work. It's futile. And this deep learning, this hidden pain, it doesn't just vanish when you grow up. It tags along. It shapes our thoughts, our feelings, our reactions, often completely without us realizing it. So that suffering story feels incredibly real. It feels permanent because your body, literally your nervous system, remembers that past helplessness, even if your conscious mind tries to forget or explain it away. Your amygdala, like the brain's alarm system, might stay on high alert, always scanning for danger, always reinforcing that feeling that the world is unsafe.
Wow. It sounds a lot like that famous research by Martin Seligman back in the 60s. Learned helplessness, right? I remember reading about those experiments you flagged, the ones with the dogs. They were in a box, getting these mild shocks, But initially, there was no way out. And at first, they tried everything, didn't they? Jumping, scrambling, trying to escape. But after a while, when nothing worked, they just stopped. They just lay down and took it.
Exactly. And here's the really the chilling part, but the part that makes it so relevant to us. Later, Seligman changed the setup. He made it easy to escape, just step over a low barrier. Simple. But many of the dogs who had been through the no-escape phase, they didn't even try to get out. They had learned that nothing they did mattered. Even when escape was right there, that's learned helplessness. And, well, humans can fall into the exact same trap. If we go through periods, maybe in childhood, maybe later in life, where we feel consistently powerless, we can internalize that feeling so deeply that we stop trying. We stop seeing the open doors even when they appear. It's quite fascinating and a little scary how ingrained that can become, like a default setting.
Okay, so bringing this back to, day-to-day life, what does this actually mean for us? What are the real costs of living inside this mindset? Because it sounds like they're pretty significant.
Oh, they are. They're genuinely heavy.
Yeah.
Emotionally, first off, it's just exhausting. You're often carrying this constant background noise of anxiety or resentment, maybe deep sadness or depression, because you keep telling yourself that same negative story over and over. Nothing works out. It's always like this for me. I'm just unlucky. And that story directly shapes how you feel. It becomes a loop. The story creates the feeling. The feeling reinforces the story.
That makes sense. And what about relationships? How does it impact how we connect with other people?
Well, it can be really corrosive there, too.
Mm.
If you see yourself mainly as a victim, it's hard not to start blaming others, right? You might become distrustful, always waiting for the other shoe to drop, expecting people to let you down or hurt you. Or sometimes you might subconsciously push people away, the very people who could offer support. Because that feeling of being wronged is so central. It makes real connection very, very difficult. It's isolating.
Yeah, I can see that. And practically speaking, in terms of achieving goals or just moving forward in life.
Practically, it's often the biggest roadblock. It keeps you stuck.
Okay, like the example you mentioned earlier. The person who keeps saying, I can't get a decent job because the system's rigged or society is unfair.
Exactly that. Now look, there might be some truth there, right? Barriers exist, economic challenges are real. But if that person never shifts focus to what they can actually influence, like maybe improving skills, changing how they network, looking at different fields, really working on their interview technique, if they never take ownership of their part, then, yeah, years can go by and nothing changes. The belief I can't becomes its own fulfillment. It traps them. The narrative itself creates the reality.
Okay, so that's the trap. How do we flip this? How do we get out? What does it actually look like to not be caught in that mindset?
Well, in a word, it looks like empowerment.
Empowerment, okay?
It's that deep recognition, that gut feeling that you always have a choice. Not about what happens maybe, but about your response.
Right, the response.
Think about someone like Oprah Winfrey. Often used as an example here for good reason. Faced incredible hardship early on, poverty, trauma, serious stuff. But she didn't stay defined by that victimhood. She made a conscious choice over and over to reframe her story, to write a new one, and look at the impact she built. It shows that immense resilience, that power to shape your own narrative is possible.
That's a powerful example. So not being a victim.
Oh.
What does that really mean then? If it's not denying hardship?
It really boils down to responsibility.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility.
Okay.
It means acknowledging, okay, I don't control everything that happens to me. Life throws curveballs. But this is key. I own my response. I am responsible for how I react, what I do next. There's that great analogy. You can't control the storm, but you can learn to sail your boat differently. So the question it brings up for you listening right now is maybe, what can you take responsibility for in your current situation? Even a small thing. Where's that pivot point for you?
Okay, right. Responsibility for the response. So let's get practical. How do we actually make that shift? Because it sounds big, maybe overwhelming. Where do we start?
It starts small.
Yeah.
Very practical, actionable things. First, think about journaling.
You're journaling. Okay.
But with a specific focus. Instead of just venting or writing down why me or this always happens, consciously shift the questions. Ask yourself things like, okay, what can I do differently here? Or what's just one tiny step I could take? Just changing the question you ask yourself starts to, well, it literally opens up different pathways in your brain. It moves you from just observing the problem to actively thinking about solutions.
That makes sense. Shifting the internal question. What else?
Paired with that, take small daily actions.
Like how small?
Tiny. Make one phone call you've been dreading. Send one email. Spend 15 minutes learning one tiny new skill related to where you want to go. The point isn't the size of the action initially, it's the consistency. Because each small action is like proof. Internal proof to yourself, to your subconscious, that you can move forward, that your effort makes a difference.
Okay. Building evidence against the old story.
Exactly. And you have to celebrate those small wins, really acknowledge them, because that's how you rebuild trust in your own ability to act, your own agency. You're showing your nervous system, hey, trying actually can work.
Okay, journaling with different questions, tiny daily actions, celebrating wins. What else?
This one is huge. Change your language, consciously.
How so?
Start noticing, really listening to yourself. How often do you say, I cannot, or I'm always, or I never? These are absolute limiting statements.
Probably more often than we realize.
Probably. So when you catch one, consciously replace it. Instead of, I cannot try, I will try, or I'm figuring out how to, or even just, okay, how can I find a way? Language is incredibly powerful. It doesn't just describe your reality. It helps create it. It shapes how your brain even sees possibilities. Tell yourself you can, and your brain just kind of shuts down options.
Language shapes possibility. I like that.
It's a fundamental truth, you know? It echoes what people like Stephen Covey talked about. He said something profound. You are not a product of your circumstances, but a product of your decisions. Every decision, even the tiny ones we just talked about, starts to break that old cycle, that learned helplessness, that victim narrative. It's this continuous choice, moment by moment, really, to respond differently, to adjust your sails, to slowly, steadily take back your power.
Wow. What a journey we've covered today, really. From seeing those invisible chains, the stories that hold us back, to discovering this incredible power we all actually have, the power to write our own story. It really comes down to becoming aware, doesn't it? Aware of the narrative we're running, and then choosing, making that conscious choice to write a different one, a better one.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for you to carry with you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, just take a quiet moment and ask yourself this one simple but really powerful question. Am I narrating my life right now as a victim? Or am I narrating it as the courageous author of my own unfolding story?
That's a great question to sit with, because ultimately that choice, it really is always yours. And sometimes maybe just hearing this conversation, just realizing it is possible to rise above feeling stuck. Maybe that's the first most important step.